Judge mocked black teen in court, then froze when he quoted federal law word for word. The courtroom smelled of old wood and desperation, a place where justice was supposed to live, but often felt like it was on trial itself. 17-year-old Malik Thompson stood at the defendant's table, his hands clasped tightly to keep them from trembling. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on his dark skin, which glistened with a thin sheen of sweat. He was no stranger to scrutiny, but today, the weight of every eye in the room felt like a physical force pressing against him. The charge was petty theft, a convenience store candy bar, allegedly slipped into his pocket. But to Malik, it wasn't about the candy. It was about the cop who'd followed him for blocks, the store clerk who'd pointed him out without hesitation, and now, the judge who stared down at him with a smirk that said, "I've seen your kind before." Judge Harold Grayson was a fixture in this small Virginia town, a man whose robes seemed to carry the authority of decades. His voice, gravelly and deliberate, cut through the room. "Young man, you think you can just waltz in here and play innocent? I've seen kids like you always with an excuse, never with respect." The gallery murmured, a mix of agreement and discomfort. Malik's mother, sitting in the second row, gripped her purse so tightly her knuckles paled. She wanted to scream, but she knew better. Silence was survival in a place like this. Malik's heart pounded, but he kept his eyes locked on the judge. He'd spent weeks in the library, poring over law books, knowing this day would come. He wasn't just fighting for himself, was fighting for every kid who'd ever been profiled, every person who'd been reduced to a stereotype. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady despite the knot in his throat, "I'd like to address the court." Grayson leaned back, his smirk widening. "Oh, this should be good. Go ahead, son. Entertain us." The word "son" dripped with condescension, and a few in the crowd chuckled. Malik felt the heat rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He wasn't here to lose his temper. He was here to win. "With all due respect," Malik said, "the prosecution's case rests on biased assumptions. The officer's report states he detained me based on suspicious behavior, but there's no evidence I took anything. The store's security footage was inconclusive, and the clerk's testimony contradicts the time log. Under Federal Law Title 18, United States Code, Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law is a violation. It's illegal to target someone based on race or perceived status without evidence." The room fell silent. Grayson's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of unease. Malik didn't stop. Furthermore, the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. The officer had no probable cause to stop me, yet I was detained and humiliated. This isn't justicite's prejudice dressed in a badge. The judge's face reddened, his gavel hovering as if he'd forgotten how to use it. The gallery erupted in whispers. Malik's mother covered her mouth, tears brimming. She'd taught him to stand tall, but she hadn't expected Thesa, teenager, quoting federal law word for word, dismantling the system's arrogance with precision. Then came the twist. A voice broke the tension from the back of the room. "He's right, Your Honor." Heads turned to see an older white man in a faded suit, standing with a slight tremble. It was Mr. Carver, the town's reclusive librarian, known for keeping to himself. No one expected him here, let alone speaking up. "I saw the whole thing," he continued, his voice gaining strength. "I was across the street that day." The officer followed Malik before he even entered the store. There was no cause, just a kid walking home. The crowd gasped. Malik's eyes widened, meeting Carver's for a fleeting moment. He'd never spoken to the man beyond borrowing books, yet here he was, risking his quiet life to speak truth. Grayson's composure cracked further. "Order," he barked, slamming the gavel. But the room was alive now, buzzing with the weight of Carver's words. The prosecutor, a young woman named Claire Dawson, shifted uncomfortably. She'd taken the case assuming it was open and shut, another notch in her conviction rate. But Malik's argument and Carver's testimony threw everything into question. She glanced at her notes, then at Malik, seeing him not as a defendant but as a persona young man fighting a system that had already judged him. Grayson cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "This is a courtroom, not a debate club," he snapped. "You think quoting laws makes you innocent?" But his voice lacked its earlier bite. Malik stood taller. "I'm not just quoting laws, Your Honor. I'm demanding fairness. If you convict me without evidence, you're not upholding justiciary perpetuating harm." The words hung heavy, a challenge to everyone in the room. Grayson's eyes darted to the gallery, where faces now looked at him with scrutiny. He'd built his career on being untouchable, but a 17-year-old had just exposed the cracks in his authority. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own bias, the way he'd dismissed Malik before the trial even began. Claire stood. "Your Honor, in light of new testimony and the defendant's argument, the prosecution requests a review of the evidence." It was a bold move, one that could cost her favor in this town. But she'd seen enough. Malik wasn't just a case number, was a reminder of why she'd gone to law school in the first place. Grayson hesitated, his pride warring with the truth. Finally, he spoke. "Case dismissed. Insufficient evidence." The gavel fell and the room exhaled. Malik's mother rushed to him, wrapping him in a hug as tears streamed down her face. The crowd was a mix of cheers and grumbles, but Malik felt something new: hope. Not just for himself, but for the possibility that truth could still matter. As he left the courtroom, Mr. Carver approached, his eyes kind but weary. "You reminded me why I keep those law books on the shelves," he said softly. "Don't stop fighting, kid." Malik nodded, a lump in his throat. He hadn't expected an ally, especially not one like Carver, whose quiet courage had shifted the tide. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows over the courthouse steps. Malik looked back at the building, a place that had tried to break him but instead became the stage for his stand. He wasn't naive. Dismissal didn't erase the profiling, the suspicion, or the years of being seen as less. But it was a start. He'd shown that a voice, even a young one, could shake the foundations of prejudice. The fight wasn't over. Malik knew that. But for now, he walked with his head high, his mother's arm around him, and the weight of a small victory lifting his steps. The world wasn't fair, but it could be pushed toward justice, one word, one truth, one unexpected ally at a time. What do you think? Where does justice begin? And how do we balance truth with the flaws of those who enforce it? Share your thoughts.